Before we get started with the podcast, I want you all to go check out You Grow Girl. That's Grow, Grow, written by a dear friend of mine, Jay Smith. It's for daily affirmations for Black women. It is filled with beautiful, colorful images of Black women and powerful affirmations. You can find it at Amazon at Amazon.com.
We're back! Welcome back to Red Zone in the Lab with Duece. It's draft time. Who you got?
Welcome back. This is redzoneinthelab podcast. This is Dion Duece Blackney, and we are back once again with our NFL draft discussion from this past week. The draft is now over. I believe we signed about 10 undrafted free agents. But our joining us today is our guest Caleb. I met Caleb during the Commanders Twitter Spaces in that world, in that realm. So it's good to have you today. How you doing today, Caleb?
Doing good, man.
Yeah, man. So how long have you been like in the Twitter Spaces? Because it seems, I mean, I know Twitter Spaces just really started popping like this last couple months. Has it been going on longer than that?
Yeah, no, you're about right. Like probably like 4 months from what I can remember. I started joining some football spaces for about the past 2 months. And I'm not just in Commanders. I'm in anything that they talk about football. I was in a Cleveland Brown space. I was in a New York Giants space, and I was in a Houston Texans space and a Jet space as well. So, it's kind of interesting to get different perspectives of the fans and how they feel and what they talk about rather than just hear about us, Yeah.
So and how is that experience with the other spaces compared to ours?
It's good. They've even asked me different questions. Oh, we see you're a Commanders fan. Like, how do you feel about this? Or how do you feel about that? They want to get our perspective, and I want to get their perspective as well. Same thing with any team. From what I know about them so far, I ask, how do you feel about this? And each fan that I talk to, they answer a little bit differently. But like I said before, it's great getting to know the different perspectives of what other fans are going through, because we're always so concerned about, well, you've never been a Washington fan. We've gone through, hell. It's like they've gone through a little bit of frustration as well. So I get it from that standpoint. It's just interesting to hear a lot of different, viewpoints.
Yeah, I would be curious to get into a Texas space, especially after the draft, because they had a really good draft yesterday.
Yeah.
But just you have any any memories about the Texans Twitter space? Because man, you talking about going through some stuff.
It was mainly memories of when they had Watson and they felt like Bill O'Brien was not a good coach at all, which he wasn't. You can tell by that. That's mainly from that one time I was there. When I asked about the Jets, they've just haven't been the same since they've had, I guess, Rex Ryan. So it's been kind of like, because I even remember going to my grandparents' house in New Jersey, and I would watch sometimes the Jets play because they'll be in the playoffs. They had a really good defense and a running game. Mm-hmm. So, and they lived off that, and they beat premier teams. Like they beat the Patriots that one year, and nobody expected that. And even some Giant spaces I've been in, the fans want something, but front office wants something different. So even before the draft, I asked, "Who do y'all want at 5 and 7?" They was like, "I wouldn't mind if we take Malik Willis." So I said, "Okay," but we know they're not going to do that. They believe in Daniel Jones, and they got Tyrod Taylor that they just got too, I believe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, they're going in a different direction. But if we're being honest, the Giants shouldn't have, they couldn't have fumbled that draft, especially with the first couple of picks. You can't fumble that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty much easy. With the Browns, it's a little bit more interesting. They have a lot of fans in there that join. One of my buddies that I play video games with, he's a Browns fan as well. He talks about, Baker and what's going on with him, the talent that they have. And, they wouldn't have the talent that they have if they wouldn't have all these top 10 draft picks because they've been bad.
Exactly.
They've been bad for at least more than a decade. They just have different perspectives. Some like Baker, some don't. Some feel like Baker is childish. Some feel like Baker has all the talent he needs. He just can't put it together. But then some people combat that with he's been in different coaching systems. So he hasn't had consistent coaching. He had to change the offensive coordinator a lot. And the Cleveland Browns, they have talent on that roster. It's because they've been bad, but they still have talent on that roster, and they can they got Myles Garrett, you got Denzel Ward, you got Greg Newsome, you got Greedy Williams, and then they got JOK, who we should have got last year.
Yep.
Yeah, they got JOK, and they got a good online.
Yeah, and they got two caliber. You can argue about last year, but they kind of had two caliber starting running backs in this league.
Yeah, and not only that, but
they had weapons,
on paper, I feel like the Cleveland Browns were the best team if we're looking at it on paper, as far as depth, quality of players, even top premier players like Myles Garrett, who he's a beast. So you got guys like that are walking around your franchise. They got different perspectives. It's just interesting, So,
do you enjoy the Commanders' Twitter Spaces?
Yeah, I tend to be with the same realm of people. I join some other spaces to see how it is, and so a lot of fans, especially our families, we have different perspectives of what we want. Like I was in a space one time, and it got a little heated because they feel like it's wide receiver or bust, and I'm like, that's not true. Like, if they pick, a DB or something like that, it's not a bad pick. Like, there's nothing wrong with DB depth. If Stingley's there on the board, which he probably wouldn't have been.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, right?
But I said, if Stingley or Sauce Gardner's on the board, I don't care about any receiver. I'm picking those two guys. Yep. That's who I'm picking. But they felt like it's a bad pick because it's not a receiver. I say it's not a bad pick. Is that something you really want? Then I understand that. It's cool. I would like for us to get a receiver too, but it's not a horrible pick. And most of them, I'm in the percent of people where I don't think Kyle Hamilton was, not to say that he's not good, but some people were walking around calling him a generational talent, which is not true, in my opinion. Generation talents are like, Sean Taylor, Brian Dawkins, Ed Reed, like those are
Hall of Famers. Hall of Famers.
Yes. Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, Kyle Hamilton is a good player, and if we picked them, that would have been cool. But he would have been our Buffalo nickel, which I don't, in my opinion, you can probably get a guy like that in the second or third round. You could probably get a guy in the lower rounds if you really build him up and mold him up into what you want to do. I was in that percentile where I wasn't that high on Kyle, but I like Kyle. He's a good player. Not to say he would have been horrible, but he's good. But he has some weaknesses. Like, let's not act like he has tremendous strengths, and we can't overlook the weaknesses. You have to look at the weaknesses in the player, or the growing areas in the player, is what I like to say.
Yeah, I agree. And when people say generational talent, the first thing I think of with a hard stop is, does this guy look like he's going to be in the Hall of Fame? Because we throw generational talent around without actually having evidence of what it actually is. So you telling me that this guy's going to go to the Hall of Fame? That's what you're telling me when you say generational talent. But to kind of go back a little, how long have you been a part like of the Washington Front? Did you grow into it? Did you select it yourself?
I kind of grew into it a little bit. I've been a fan since like 2005. So when I was a little kid, always got made fun of because they suck sometimes. But I still stuck it through. They had good moments. I have memorable moments as well. I have at least 5 memorable moments. Uh, me being a fan. Now they weren't consistency is what we struggle with. So you got the
Mm-hmm.
OG people who have stayed away from um, the team because they're just not the same or they're tired of losing, which is understandable. Um, that's why I feel like this our organization, they want to bring in new fans. They understand they won't get the same guys back. Now it's time to get the new people in and try to galvanize them and get them to like the team. But yeah, no, I've grown up with it. So yeah, and I still love them, as long as I'll, be alive. So, but yeah, I kind of grew into it and watching them every Sunday. Uh, watching highlights of them all the time, even in Madden, I will use them, it's, yeah. So yeah, I've always grown up to love the team. So,
Yeah. So when it comes, and I know we kind of talked about Cal Hamilton a little bit, but what was your like going into the draft? If everything failed the way that you wanted it to fall, who would you want it at number 11?
Now I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to break it down into like what I think we shouldn't have gotten at 11 and what I think we, in order.
That's perfect.
Yeah, if we picked a D tackle, I think that would have been a horrible pick. And we ended up picking a D tackle in the second round, and I still think that's a bad pick, in my opinion. That is a horrible pick. I do not agree with it at all because they're just drafting him to be a rotational piece, which you can find in the fourth round when you could have got something else that was more in need. But yeah, all linemen, not really, because I think our coaching staff is so good that even with all these injuries that we've been rattled for injuries on the O-line, they were still a 6th ranked O-line this year. Mm-hmm. Now, me saying that is not saying we don't need depth at the position, because you always want depth at the O-line position. You always do. I think two positions are important for depth, which is O-line and DB. Those are important because injuries do happen. You can always find a running back off the street, and you can figure out a plan how to do certain reads like zone reads or, north and south runners. You got to figure out a way how to, use that weapon that you have. But O-line and DB depth are important, always important. Linebacker, probably not. No, not really. I wouldn't have been that too fond of that. And if we got a quarterback, looking how the way they fell, it's pretty crazy the way all these guys fell, in my opinion. This is a quarterback-driven league, so people will reach. But if it was my choice, it would have been wide receiver or DB. Wide receiver, I would have wanted Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson will be the Justin Jefferson this year, in my opinion. He will have a rookie breakout year. I'm an Alabama fan, of course. So I do like Jamison Williams. I think he would have been wide receiver 1 without the injuries. He's I think he's the best wide receiver in this draft, based off his not only his ceiling, but his abilities too as well. Now, a lot of people are going to say that there is no wide receiver 1, which I can understand because you still got Drake London, who has something you can't teach, which is size and vertical. Yep. Can't teach that. And you have Chris
that was my number 1. That was my number 1.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the way I look at receivers sometimes, I like guys who can like do it all a little bit. So that's why you got Chris Olave. Tremendous. He has the best route running in this class. Tremendous separation. If you look at his games,
yep,
he separates so well for a wide receiver. Now he's a little bit undersized. He's 6 foot, and people feel like if he gets pressed by huge corners, he's going to struggle.
Yeah, and I think and I think that's kind of true, because I noticed he has great separation at the top of the route. You know, the beginning of the route is, if someone can get their hands on them, it's proven they can kind of knock them off balance. And I think that's what that if you want to look at a weakness as far as translating from college to pro, I think that's one of the ones that stands out.
Yeah. And as far as the DB standpoint, if Stingley would have fell, you have to take him, and it would have been maybe like a God-given prayer if he fell because of his injury. But he 2 years ago, a year ago, he was considered to probably be the number one. Like if he was fully healthy right now, he would have been the number one pick in this draft. There's no question. He would have been the number one pick in this draft. I would have had him, or even I would have picked Trent McDuffie. I probably would have traded down and took Trent McDuffie. He is a corner. He can play man and zone. Yes, he's a little bit undersized. I get that. But he's the type of guy that can do it all. Some of these DBs in this draft, they're really great at one thing, but they need help in others. Like Andrew Booth I believe he's good in man, really good in man, not good in zone. Kyer Alam from Florida, he's really good in zone. He's okay in man. He's not that. He's not like Trent McDuffie's a very rare case in this draft where he can do everything. You can ask him to do anything. You want him to play outside? He can play outside a little bit.
And that was Logan Thomas. He put him above. He put him number one because of that exactly. I don't know if you kind of listen to Logan Thomas on different.
A little bit.
Yeah. So he had a good breakdown of the corners back, and he had Trent McDuffie one, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and Sauce Gardner, he would have been nice. I would have liked if you picked him too, except we don't play press man. You only pick Sauce Gardner if you're going to play press man all game. That's the type of corner he is. You leave him on an island. He has range. He has good speed, and he has great instincts.
So why would you sign William Jackson? Like I couldn't bring, even to this day, I just can't bring to thought. Was it because of his name?
I think because he needed another DB, which you do. William Jackson is he's a really good boundary corner, and he had a really good year the year before he came with us. He had a really good year with the Bengals. He has range, he has good speed, and it wasn't a bad contract. It was I think it was a good signing for us, but you have to use him how you're supposed to use him, which is something that really gets me upset with this coaching staff.
I can tell.
No, we get players that are good, but you have to use them in the right way.
Yeah.
Landon Collins, for example, you're not supposed to be putting him at free safety. Stop putting him at free safety if he's continuously getting burnt. You have to make adjustments. Sometimes, as I watch this team, sometimes we do not make adjustments. We don't. I don't know if it's a coaching staff in that old school mentality, and not to stray off, but that's why some fans want Jack Del Rio's job, because he has an old school mindset. He thinks like an old head, from a young person's perspective.
Oh yeah.
This league is driven by young, talented, innovative coaches.
Right.
Perfect example. You got, Sean McVay. We're not going to get into that, but offensively gifted. He's offensively gifted. You look same thing with Kyle Shanahan. Offensively gifted. Even with the Chargers head coach, Brandon Staley, young defensive mind. He takes risk, which I really like. Going forward on 4th and 10 in your own territory, that's ballsy. I like that. I like it. Yeah, it can bite
Sam Cassell.
Yeah. It can bite you in the ass a little bit, but he's not afraid. He's not, but he's a young defensive mind. Like mine, even Kevin O'Connell from the Vikings, who they just got, young, innovative head coach. These are guys that are coming up and are getting recognition, and pretty soon you got to start doing that. But yeah, no, we just got to put players in the right perspective, like using them the right way. Same thing with Cam Sims. I really like Cam Sims. Other people feel like he's not good. I still think he's good. You just need to put him in the right situation. When you're in red zone, Don't throw a fade to Curtis Samuel. Throw a fade to Cam Sims. That's his strength. Use that. If you're just going to use him for that, then do it. You still got Terry. Terry can, run fades. He's physical. He's a go-getter for the football. He proved that this year. Most contested catches in the league. But that was mostly because of quarterback play.
Exactly. Yeah. I always bring that point out when we're talking about that. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to be number one in something, but he shouldn't be number one in that.
Yeah. That's not his game, but we've seen that he can do that. But we just got to put players in the right situation. That's why with Kyle Hamilton, I wouldn't have been that happy if we got him. I mean, if we got him, we get him. But I've looked on some tape on him, and he struggles in coverage. He's not, and if you put him at free, he can be solid at the position, but he's not elite or really good in that position. He has the perfect body for a football player. 6'4", 220, big dude, huge dude, except he doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the athleticism, and he doesn't have, the acceleration or the change of direction to make some of these plays these free safeties make, like going from sideline to sideline, or being able to change direction really good to drop down or go back up. Can't do that. He's a big nickel linebacker, Buffalo nickel safety. If we would have drafted him, he would have replaced Landon. That's basically what he would have been. Which we could have found that somewhere else. I think, and I think we got players on this roster that can do that. In my opinion.
Yeah, because for the Derek Forstner, gotcha. He's a
Yep.
big guy. I mean, and he runs, like a full 3 something.
And he can hit.
And he could come up and tackle. Yeah, and I think that's someone that's on the roster. And a lot of people, a lot of times us fans, we kind of forget what we already have because we haven't seen them for injuries or whatever. But the coaching staff sees it and they know it. So, it's really not their, job to come out here and tell us, everything that goes on and everything that they see. Yep. And sometimes that's kind of difficult for us fans to understand. But when it comes to Jahan at the 16th pick, I'm gonna just say leading up to it, I didn't hear his name like anywhere. Even when we talking about general ESPN about certain draft, even though he was within like the top 50 prospects on Mel Kiper's and a lot of those other guys, his name just never popped out. So what was your initial reaction when we took him with the 16th pick?
Okay. So I was at a draft party at FedEx Field. So that was really fun. I was looking at 11. I said, we're probably most likely going to pick Kyle Hamilton, and we're going to pick, Chris Olave. And Garrett Wilson went right before us. So I was like, dang, that's what I wanted. Well, Olave would have been fine in my eyes. He would have been fine. You just got to utilize him and put him in the right situation. Put him in the slot. You can probably put him outside with certain matchups. We traded down. I'm like, oh Lord, we about to do something. Or they, in my eyes, it's like they're trying to get too cute. Just pick the player that you want, in that range. Just do that. I really thought we was gonna pick Devin Lloyd at linebacker at 16.
Linebacker.
Yeah, I was. So yeah, we may pick a linebacker, or they may trade back thinking they can get Kyle. And Kyle, that's the Ravens took him. We picked Jahan Dotson. I knew about him. He's not he's like below the top 5 receivers in my eyes. But you got to look at it. It's like when the Eagles did what they did. And some fans are like, we could have done that. I'm like, no, we can't, because you have to sign AJ Brown. You didn't sign Terry yet. Mm-hmm. Like
exactly,
yeah. And Treylon Burks was there too. It's like he may not fit our scheme of what we want to do. Which I see what we're trying to do with this team, like offensively, airing it out. They may be a little bit undersized receivers, but you're airing it out deep vertically. You got Diami Brown, you got Jahan Dotson, you got Curtis Samuel, and you got Terry. These are vertical threat players. They stretch the field and put stress on your secondary and put stress on your linebackers in certain cases, because sometimes they may have to cover them. Mm-hmm. And then, we even got gadget players like Gibson and Curtis Samuel that we can use in different situations. So we drafted Jahan Dotson basically for our scheme. I think he's a good player. I did some, I looked up some tape on him. He plays bigger than his size. He has really good speed. His size is not that good for a receiver typically, but most people don't care about that because Antonio Brown was undersized and look what he did. Tyler Lockett is undersized and look what he did. Doug Baldwin was undersized and look what he did. Same thing with Santana Moss, who we had.
Steve
Smith
was
undersized. Look what he did. Steve Smith.
Yeah.
So
Tyreek Hill. He's crazy fast, but still.
Yeah.
And that sometimes frustrates me. When I'm just, in different chats and just talking with people, it's like, you have to have a broader sense of the league and where the league has come from and the different players that played in this league. And when you think about this pick with Jahan Dotson, Ron saw Steve Smith in this guy. And if you watch his tape, he does play bigger than what he is. And I think sometimes we kind of forget of, the players that actually played small and that you can produce being, a small player, to your point.
Yeah, because if you look at his production and what he did at Penn State, people compare him to Doug Baldwin, which if we get that type of production, I'm cool with that. I am cool with that. If Jahan Dotson at least he doesn't even have to get 1,000. If he gets 1,000, then great. But if you have him and Terry with other weapons, if Jahan Dotson can get like 700 yards. Even with the way our offense is 600 yards, I'm cool with that type of production. I'm cool with that. They give him Doug Baldwin comparisons, Tyler Lockett comparisons, which is cool. With the right quarterback, you can work with that. He had 91 targets and only had 2 drops. He does not drop the ball. If you look at his tape coming, like the little highlight tape of him coming into the facility, he always got a football in his hand. And whenever we play sports as a little kid, when you fumble, they make you carry around that football. Make sure you don't drop it. So it's the little things like that I see. That may be something silly to take mind of, but he can catch the ball. Some people think he has the best hands in this class. But I think he's going to contribute day one. To him in college, he was basically like what Terry is for us in college. Didn't have good QB play. He had to fight to get what he wanted, and he fought to get what he wanted, and he produced at a high level. Yeah. So I like the pick. I do like the pick.
Hi, I'm Christian Miles, native Washingtonian and real estate agent servicing the Washington metropolitan area. I started my career as an investor and later transitioned to the residential side. I really wanted to leave the investor side because I wanted to connect with people. Building relationships is important to me. I understand the buying and selling process can be challenging. I get it. I've been there. I'm a mom, wife, friend, and neighbor. I absolutely love helping families and connecting with people. Going through the home buying and selling process is stressful enough. When working with me, I make it fun. As a realtor, I think it's important to be able to connect with you. Every detail is important, no matter how small. Let me take care of the heavy lifting while you focus on the joys of finding a new home. Something I live by, people may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. With me, it's an experience.
Welcome back to Red Zone in the Lab with Duece. It's draft time. Who you got?
All right, so we kind of know your feelings about the day 2 pick. But what if I say you said that he's for depth? What if I kind of throw out there is they kind of drafted him as the Ron Payne's replacement, and then just I don't think Ron is in position to trade Payne, I wouldn't want no less than a third. And I think Ron needs to win now, and trading Deron Payne decreases that chance. So I don't think he goes anywhere this year.
Now, I'll say this: we may disagree a little bit on this.
Mm-hmm.
There was a better D tackle at that position. If we we're going to pick a D tackle, there was a better guy on the board. I forgot his name, but there was a better guy on the board. And I wouldn't have picked a D tackle. I would have picked Jaquan Brisker. He was sitting right there.
The safety, right?
Yes. He's physical. He can play down in the box for you. That's what he is. I would have wanted him. That's what I would have wanted. But the Payne, I don't think he. I don't know if he'll be Payne's replacement, because you got to look at it. We would still be missing another quality D tackle, I think, if that was the case. Because if he was starting, if he was going to be the replacement, then, I guess next year they would draft another guy. I'm guessing, depending on, and even next year, I don't think we'll get I don't think we'll use a first round pick on a D tackle. I think it'll just be, depending on how the season is, I think it'll be a player who fits a need that we have. Mm-hmm. As far as Deron Payne's his quality or his trade stock, again, I am in the 1% about this. He's a really good player. I like what he can do. I like his talent, and I like his energy throughout the game. He kind of reminds me of a Chris Baker on crack a little bit.
Okay.
And I like Chris. I like Swaggy P when he was with us. He was always energized. When he made a play, he let people know, like. But
it is what it is. It is what it is.
But I like that. I like that guy. He's a really great run stuffing D tackle. And in the passing game, he can plug up holes. Now, as far as his trade, run stuffing D tackles aren't a necessity in this league. So you can always get a quality run stuffing D tackle.
Mm-hmm.
The D tackles that will get some type of that people want are people like Jonathan Allen. If you say Jonathan Allen's on the block, you could probably get a second, or you may even get a first for him. It depends. He had one really good year. If he had another great year with us, then you can say he's probably worth a first if he goes crazy next year. Mm-hmm. At best, if you look at his PFF grade, Deron Payne, his pass rushing grade is like in the 60s. And his run stuffing grade is like in the mid 70s.
Yeah. And I think, and I think we have to understand as fans is that you might not see him get like 15, 16 sacks. And I think a good reason why Deron Payne had such a good year is because so much attention was on Jonathan Allen. And we have to look at the whole game and why he's as good as he is. We can't just look at, he ain't getting no sacks. He's sorry.
Of course.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
Because me and my other I'll be on the game with, he like when we try to make this run for a quarterback, I was like, they may not want Deron Payne. Like, you got to give up Sweat or Chase Young to get one of these elite quarterbacks. You may have to. Like, if we wanted Watson, if they told us to give up one of our edge rushers, I'm doing it. If I'm getting that MV caliber Watson, which one do you feel like is more important? An elite pass rusher or an elite quarterback? Elite quarterback, of course. Like, who, especially in our position, we haven't had consistency at that position for years. We've had the most starting quarterbacks in the past 10 years. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we had 7 different, or maybe 6 different starting quarterbacks in 1 year. Like,
that was crazy.
Like
Josh Johnson.
Come on. Mark Sanchez, you got Josh Johnson, you got like you got a whole array of like plethora of QBs that we put behind center. That's not going to give you any success in this league. It's not. You can't win like that anymore. This league is about franchise QBs. When you get that guy, he will turn your franchise. He will turn your franchise, your city around. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar, even Kyler. Like, and you're looking at Dak Prescott. Like, you're looking at all these guys. and maybe the guys coming up, maybe Jalen Hurts. I mean, we don't know, but he had a really good year this year. Yeah, he got to work on a few things, but he's a friend. If he can show consistency, he can be a franchise QB.
Mm-hmm.
But and you're right. It is all about what you see, on, in the game. Because he says, he's not that valuable. I say, well, if you look at the game, he brings opportunity to other players. What I say is, he does the dirty work. He does the dirty work for you on that D line. And sometimes he may get a sack every now and then. Sometimes he gets double teamed. He's really great against the run. When the run is like on the outside zone, he's not lazy. He still gives pursuits to it. Like, he has that drive. He has a high motor as well. He really does have a high motor. But like I said, a guy like that, in all honesty, can be replaceable. If I'm being completely honest. And one thing about fans is we fall in love with players too much.
Yeah, we do.
a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree completely. So let's go to the rest of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
The third pick.
I like it.
Robinson. Robinson, the running back from.
I like it, Brian. Yep, and I'm a Baylor fan, so I've seen him play. Power running back. He's like Josh Jacobs, but a little bit elusive. He gives you that power. He keeps his legs going, and not only that, he will push Gibson. Gibson had 6 fumbles this year. Yes, I love Gibson. What he can do, he's a very versatile player. He can, he can put him in a slide. You can put him out wide. You can put him in the backfield. You can have him do different things. He can catch. Like, he's very versatile. As a rookie running back, he may have been the best stat wise. As far as production, he was one of the best. But he's going to push him. And if Gibson doesn't turn out to be the running back we want, then we got Brian. He can be a first and third down, a first or second down back. Short. And this year we're going to use him for short yardage. I feel like, so we struggled with that last year. We struggled with short yardage. But yeah, I like the pick.
Yeah, and most of the people, you don't think about Peyton Barber because I didn't think they thought that he would get picked up on waivers, but he was there like the year before last. Like, he was that guy. I mean, he was. He would come in on, short yardage and different things like that. And that's what we did miss last year was that type of guy with Patterson. So you kind of watch Patterson being an Alabama fan. What do you think? Because I don't think people understand the running backs that was at Alabama these last 3 years. What do you have to say to the people that say, he couldn't get on the field the first 3 years? What do you have to say to those people?
I'm not trying to hear that. We have a lot of 5-star recruits. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of people that come in and compete on that team. Even perfect example, when I tell people I think Cam Sims is good, Cam Sims was a 4-star recruit going into Alabama. It's just that there were people who were more naturally gifted than him. Not that he's bad. There were just people that were a little bit better. They plug him in different situations. You know how Nick Saban and Nick Saban is literally like the Bill Belichick of college football. He puts people in different situations. He's smart. If he loses, he loses. Sometimes he really doesn't care if he loses, but because he's won a lot. So, but people would expect you to keep that consistency, which is good. But we plugging people in a lot of different situations, unless we just got that guy, which when we had Jameson and we had John Michie, those were the guys. And then the guys after that, when they were both injured in that championship game, we didn't have nobody to throw to. Bryce Young didn't have nobody to throw to. I mean, those guys didn't get the quality time that they needed to contribute to that team. They didn't get the experience yet.
So to the next round, what about the kid Percy Butler?
I don't know that much. I don't know that much about him. All I know is he has a good size for a safety as far as like being 6 foot. He's not afraid to tackle, and he had one of the best 40-yard dashes. That's mainly what I know. I know he ran a 4.3, like a 4.3 in the middle. Yeah,
and I heard like he's very good in coverage, but his question mark is missed tackles. They say he missed like 13.
You can work on
year. Yeah. But they said the previous years all combined, he only missed 12. So I don't, I think that's kind of, anomaly. All right, so Sam Howell, what
Love
do
it.
you
Love it. Love it.
What's his okay? So this is kind of like my position, especially after Ron Presser, right? About kind of stressing he's long-term development or whatever the case may be. And, you know, they say they have the old school mentality, and I think Ron's going to do everything he can to make sure that Wentz is the clear-cut starter this year. What I think is Taylor's going to be number 2, and I believe that they're going to hide Howell as much as possible. So what I say by hide him is I mean that during practices and OTAs and all those things, he's not really going to be on the field when it's open to the media. How do you feel about that and his Ron's comments about him being a developmental long-term project?
There's a lot of bad stigma about shopping for a used car. Well, come visit us at iCargo Motors. We'll take care of you. We'll ensure that your experience is not only seamless and efficient, but also satisfying. Because at iCargo Motors, we believe that the best form of currency is integrity.
Welcome back to Red Zone in the Lab with Duece. It's draft time. Who you got?
Well, it's nothing wrong with him being a developmental long-term project. He's not what I do like about Sam Howell. I think he's the youngest QB in this draft. And at one point, he was projected to go in the first round.
This time last year, he was projected
even before,
to be the number 1 quarterback.
Yeah, even in 19 and 20, he had one of the best stats in college football. Mm-hmm. You know, then he lost his weapons. He lost
O-line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he lost a lot of his best players. And this year he had to work. He had to grind through that. Yeah, he made some questionable, mistakes because I look at his film. There's a guy who has 5 or 6, 7 parts of game film on him and tells you what he should have did here and what he should have did here. He's young, 21 years old. It's not going to be like a Kenny Pickett thing where his rookie contract is going to be up when he's 29.
Yeah, he's old, man. He's old, man.
Yeah. So, but that's what happens when you play your whole senior year. Then you got the COVID year. Like that's what happens. I do want him to see. I think he should get reps. Maybe not first team reps, but he's the type of guy. If he can live up to what he did, and he has the team to do what he did in college. Again, he does. He has that. He has his boy back. Diami Brown is back there with him now. You still got Dotson, deep threat. You still got Terry, deep threat. You got Curtis Samuel, deep threat. And I think he has the best, if not the best, deep ball throw in this, in this class. You still got Carson Strong, though, who went undrafted. And that was mostly because of his knee. His knee was pretty messed up. If Carson Strong's knee wasn't messed up, he would have been the number 1 QB in this class, no question. Guy's 6'5". He has a cannon.
He's a statue though. That was my only concern.
Yeah. He's a statue. And most people would tell you he doesn't show, like, how some people think, certain players they can't move, but they really can on the field.
Yeah.
That some people like
Brady, for instance.
Yeah. Like even if you're immobile, as long as you got that pocket awareness, and you can move up. No one to move up, no one to move down, no one to move to the left, move to the right. Like if you can do that, then I still have you on my team.
Yeah. It's like a flag football quarterback.
Yeah.
But and all that good stuff.
Yeah, of course. But I do like the pick. It's nothing wrong with him being developmental. It's nothing wrong with that. Get him in the lab. He has to be in the lab every day. Know the playbook. And then when knowing Ron, like you say, he gives people chances. He doesn't care if you're the starter at all. If you fall off, you will get benched, which I do like. Doesn't show no type of favoritism. I believe he will be QB2 soon. I have a bold prediction. I think he's going to be QB2 in the middle of the year. And in all honesty, depending on how the seasons go, and we got him based off insurance. But it's cool with what Ron did, calling Wentz and letting him know, like, you're still our guy. Maybe other teams didn't say that. They should have said that to him. But then you got to look at it from the other's perspective. Like, you got to have thick skin in this league. Your job is not always granted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, NFL, like they say, not for long. You know, you have to maintain consistency in your game. But I like how I think he will be I think he can be a starter. I think he can be a starter. He's like people compare him to Baker Mayfield, like with his body, his mobility, and his arm. And he can move too. He's not afraid to run. But yeah, it's good. He can be a developmental case. That's fine with me. But as long as go ahead.
Yeah, what I think is gonna. I think it all depends on Wentz, right? I think it all depends on Wentz. And Wentz goes out there, and he balls out, right? He balls out next year. I think Howell automatically becomes number 2. If Wentz somehow flops, late in the year or whatever, he ends up flopping. They say, hey, look, we're not going to bring you back. We're not going to guarantee this next year. And I think it's like 29 million, 28, 29 for next year. So they do that. And then I think it's Howell's ball, right? I think it's Howell, and then Heineke stays at number 2 if they, re-sign him. I'm quite sure they'll be able to do that. But that's how I think it plays out. What do you think about that? I think it kind of all depends on Wentz.
Of course. It all depends on injuries. It all depends on performances.
Yeah.
I think Howell can be a guy for our future. I think he can. I think he can throw the ball deep. He has to work on some things, and they'll work on that. Scott Turner can help him with that. I want to see him get the opportunity. Like when we got Dwayne, God rest his soul. I wanted to give him an opportunity. Yeah, now the opportunity we gave him wasn't best fit because they basically just threw him out to the wolves and said, hey, hope this works. You can't do that. The Bears did that with Justin Fields. You can't do that. You have to have a game plan for him. And he has to execute that game plan, which I think he can. I think he can. I do love the pick. He's going to be quarterback 2. I think halfway through the year. I think he's going to make a big leap, and because he can make the throws, Heineke can't. So, and that's one thing. But the one thing about Heineke is, and people may laugh at me for this, Heineke is competitive. He cannot. He's the type of guy where he knows he can't make all the throws, but he still tries.
Yeah.
Puts in effort, and that's the type of quarterback you would want in your room. When your quarterback 1 goes down, you want a guy that can go out in the field and look, I can do everything. Yeah,
and the guy's gonna have confidence in him around him.
Yep, in the locker room. Yep, in the locker room.
All right, so we don't want to stay too long, but we have Cole Turner, Chris Paul, Christian Holmes, but
I love Cole Turner.
So I was about to ask, how do you feel about Cole Turner, and how do you feel about the tight end room at all?
I like the tight end room. You got to get a young tight end, or of your future. Logan Thomas is really good with her first year for us. I wish he was younger. I wish he was younger. He has
31 this year, I think.
Yeah, he has a perfect body for a tight end. Very physical, very he's great hands. He has solid route running. He doesn't create that much separation, but he's really good at possessive catches. I like John Bates too. He's a project, good blocker. They say he lost a little bit of weight this year, so he could probably have some more agility. He could probably gain some more speed, but he's a really good blocker. Cole Turner is more of a weapon type of guy. Guy 6'6". He's a soft hands, good route runner. He can be a security blanket. That's why I think when the preseason come up, I think him and Sam Howell are going to have a lot of chemistry together. You're always going to have that chemistry with that one guy on your squad. But they have to improve. Like, we have to look for improvement. Chris Paul, I think he's a really good, really solid depth piece that we have. In case somebody goes down, you can slide him in. And depending on how good he is, I don't know, they could slide. We can shift a lot of people around, but he'll most likely be an interior lineman.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, Christian Holmes. I don't know that much about him. I haven't gotten into him yet, so I can't tell you that much. But I've seen his physicals. He has solid physicals for his position. Because I like my corners that are 6 foot. I like 6 foot, 200 pound corners. I think that's the
And he's
perfect.
big. He's big too.
Yeah,
Like he's a
I think that's the perfect body for a corner. 6 foot, 200 pounds.
yeah, he look like those old Legion of Doom cornerbacks.
Yeah,
He's like a big guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
So that kind of, I mean, we have some undrafted free agents. I haven't had a lot of time to get into
Yeah, it's fine.
in any of those yet. But the rest of the offseason, what do we need to address? What kind of holes we need to fill? And do you have any free agents that you would love for them to bring here?
I really would want us to bring Tyrann Mathieu back. Or no, not Tyrann, well, not back, but get him into this team. That he is a leader. He is a weapon you can use defensively. You can blitz him. You can put him in as a nickel corner. You can put him in the box. Like you can use him. You can put him around the line of scrimmage. You can put him up top. Like he is a diverse, rangy safety / DB. And there was also reports we may bring back Landon. That was today. I think I saw that on Twitter. Like they're talking to Landon again, so that we may bring him back as our Buffalo nickel. And they're going to pay him at this price because this is what we're going to use.
Right.
This is what we're going to use you, and you're not going to get that type of money you want. You're not going to get safety money if you're an in the box, kind of type of player. You're basically a linebacker, but they use that word Buffalo nickel to make him feel better.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we might be out on Honey Badger. They say that the Saints is putting the full press on. But I think because I mean he did take one pay cut. He was willing to take one, but they asked him to take a little bit more. After they signed Carson. And I'm talking about Landon, but I'm quite sure his agent is looking out there. He's like, hey, look, these people trying to give you the same thing as they are trying to give you. So I would have. I think he played very well towards the end of the season when he really kind of accepted that role. And if he's willing to accept that role and have a whole offseason to prepare for it, I think he can kind of change his career similar to who was that? Charles Woodson. Remember, Charles Woodson had made that transition. And if you can make an argument that the second half of his career was kind of better than the first.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Anything else you want to?
No, man. I'm just, I think this team has to take a big leap. I think if they have the same record as this past year, it will be a disappointment because we expect better things. I believe we can have a 10-win season. In all honesty. We can win 10 games, especially with the NFC and how everybody just left and went to the AFC because the AFC is highly competitive now. You really have, we can make the playoffs because you have to worry about the Bucks, the Rams, the Cowboys, the Packers. You still got, Aaron Rodgers. You still got to worry about that. No matter what they have, they still have Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. You got some teams in the NFC that are, they're okay. They're not that, I'm not scared of them, basically. Mm-hmm. It's just the AFC is where it is. Because like the Eagles are getting better. You still got the Niners, and there's some teams that just aren't going to like win that much this season, like the Falcons or
Saints maybe.
Yeah, Saints, Lions, the Cardinals. The Cardinals are still good too. We can make the playoffs. And Seattle isn't the same. Mm-hmm. We can win 10 games, and our schedule isn't that hard this year either.
Yeah. I don't know if the strength of schedule will change a little bit. I mean, it usually does. After the draft and after the second wave, or like post June 1. Yeah. The strength of schedule, because I think the Giants got better on paper, and I think the Eagles got better on paper.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, the Eagles got really. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. They have probably one of the best one of the best drafts. They have one of the best. Jordan Davis is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, so that's it. Again, Caleb, I really appreciate you coming on. I just told myself, man, let me reach out. I would really like to get some individual thoughts, from Caleb. So yeah, man, I really do appreciate you coming on. You want to drop your Twitter handle for followers?
Yeah, sure. If people, want to follow me, Twitter handle is basically Caleb Justin, but the A and the U is an X basically. So it's CXLEBJXSTIN. I just don't talk about football. I like talking about basketball, anything that intrigues me, I just, like seeing people's different perspectives on them. And I'm in spaces most of the time. So you'll probably see me in a space.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I might have to get you to come on because I heard you mention gaming. I have a couple guys that's in the gaming world. I would love to kind of connect you to. Buddy of mine, he's really up there in 2K. I mean, his man is ranked like extremely high. I think it's sports guy _TV, something or Octane something. So yeah, man, get y'all hooked up, man. Because I know, just on the level actually speaking about this is like this is a whole new revenue stream for a lot of people. And I think that's something, unlike my parents, and I'm sure your parents, get off that game ain't gonna do nothing for you. Like that whole argument has changed completely. When that kid won that $1 million in that Pokemon challenge a few years ago.
People are making money off it now. Like a lot of people, they've gone from not being known. It's like, who is this guy? And they become content creators. They just start making money. Like all you need is to get lucky one time. All you need is that. No, it's for real. Like all you need is that one time to get lucky. One of my buddies plays games. He got hosted by a guy who had 800 views, and he got verified on Twitch.
Wow,
got verified on Twitch. Yeah. So all you need, you may never know who's like. You just got to keep grinding for one. If you're going to be streaming and or doing even what you're doing, you just got to keep grinding, put your best foot forward, and but also reach out to other, try to get different opportunities.
I appreciate you coming on again.
Of course, man.
Caleb, this is Red Zone in the Lab podcast with Duece Blackney. I don't know my own last name. Still getting used to it, man. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. One beat, one sound, one hot, one love.
Thank you for listening to Red Zone in the Lab podcast. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Red Zone in the Lab. And you can download our podcast at Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. And please visit our website at redzoneinthelab.com. Thank you.
We're back. Welcome back to Red Zone in the Lab with Duece.
It's draft time. Who you got?